Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creating Show. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that's been controversial for years, and that's the topic of health and fitness. Today on the show, we have no other than Tripp Parks. Let me explain to you who Tripp Parks actually is. He's the new face of total wellness. And he's going to explain not only the journey into total wellness, his quest in creating generational wealth, but more importantly, coming out of trauma, and how all this got rolled all into one package to not only create future generations, but also to help you guys in your health and fitness journey. Welcome to the show, Mr. Tripp Parks. Welcome to the show, Tripp.
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Let's get right down to it. Tell the viewers who Tripp Park actually is.
So my name's Tripp Parks. I'm a certified genetic-based program designer, nutritionist, personal trainer, nutritionist, elite trainer, CEO, COO of Ascend Performance Training, author of Health Profiling, and host of the Health or High Water podcast. My mission with my journey is just to try to make a better product and a better solution to health and wellness out there using predictive medicine as well as preventative medicine. So you've just been trying to again come up with just a better way for people to get well.
What was it like growing up in your household? You said you got a brother, and you got a pretty good family foundation. You talk a little bit about your grandfather. What was it like growing up?
I grew up in a very blue collar house. It was, up at 5:30 in the morning, you get your work done, you come back and you take care of your family, you have family dinners. We had quite a bit of tragedy in family. I lost my grandma to cancer at 14, then lost my grandpa at 18 to murder. He was 87 years old and got beat with a baseball bat in his flea market. It was bought from his flea market. So that was sad, but what I did with that was try to take that adversity and that stress and that trauma and try to do something positive with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to live life like he would have, making sure that I'm getting the education I needed to get, and as well as set up a business or something for the future for my kids, grandkids, and as well as make a positive impact on society using science and this knowledge that I've accrued over the past 20 years. So again, just trying to make a better quality product using genetics. That's one of the big things that why I started this is like, why does one workout program work for somebody and not the other? What about nutrition and whatnot? So we're getting a lot closer with that using genetics.
What have you noticed in the field of health and fitness? Because how old are you, Tripp?
32.
32. I'm way older than you. I remember the protein powders. I remember the amino acids. I remember the Arnold Schwarzenegger book on encyclopedia on weight training. But I do remember through my personal journey that the information that was out there was what I had to follow. What have you seen different from my era to this new electronic data blueprint, and how important is it moving forward?
Well, first and foremost, for that is getting rid of frustration for people, right? Like, is understanding how their body works and coming up with a better program for them, right? Number one, limit that frustration and making sure people are sticking to these wellness goals. So, but yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing, is just figuring out the right steps to take per person, and that everybody's different. Everybody has their own unique situations, hormone situations. Maybe the blood panel doesn't come back right. They might be prone to injuries. They might have a certain predispositions for fear, anxiety, depression, and just coming up with, again, like a better way to look at this. Right, we need to stop looking at like the pieces of things. Like, oh, if I do a better diet, everything's gonna be okay. It's like, well, there's a lot more to fitness than just your diet. What about your sleep? What about your stressors? What about potential cardiovascular risks down the road? I just think that we haven't been looking at things the right way. And that's been the huge difference. Is like we were talking a little bit before the show, like the food pyramid was upside down by the time I got out of high school.
Right.
And we just didn't have the knowledge that we have now, that we've accrued over this time since, back then. It's really science-based. Our bodies are machines, but we're all different machines. So we all have different manuals to keep ourselves healthy. And that's where this comprehensive wellness profile, where we take the genetic test, we take your blood work, we take your family and medical history, and we take your biomechanical assessment. We come up with a program that's unique to you because you are unique.
Skip, how much of this stems from most passions happen throughout our childhood? How much of this is in your childhood?
All of it. I was a very outdoor kid. I didn't want to be inside. I loved the gym. I just, at 12 years old, my brother and I were 18 years apart at the time, and we didn't really have much in common. So he brought me to the gym, and that just started my love affair with weights. And I would pick up the magazines back in the day before the internet articles were out there. I'd read every single magazine I could. I'd look up any article I could find and just try to be a sponge for it. So my childhood really set up my discipline and who I am and my passion for this back in the day. So that's why sports and that's why, working out is so important at an early age, because it sets you up as a successful adult with healthy habits.
What did you see that was lacking? I mean, you read all the muscle magazines, and I know from firsthand experience, there were all kind of new training regiments that was popping up. They all dealt with weights, very minimum as far as the realm of nutrition. But let's get real. I'm a professional retired bodybuilder. I've been in sports all my life. One of the top trainers. And I know from being a trainer, people don't like to work out. You saw, but in the muscle books, that's all you saw. So are you telling me now that maybe weightlifting may not be the key, the end to beat all? Maybe nutrition may not be the end to beat all, but you're telling me now with new research, there's a better way of understanding wellness.
Yeah, it's really about being more efficient, right? Overall,
Mhm.
you take blueprint from Arnold. Like, you're going to be in the gym for 2 hours.
Yeah.
If you're not taking recovery supplement, if you're not taking recovery like TRT, you're not getting professional massage, you're not stretching out, you're not doing all these other extracurriculars, your body's going to fall apart from overtraining.
Mhm.
Right. And all these other people were doing those things like, hey, if Arnold's in there for 2 hours, I should be in there for 2 hours. And, maybe hypertrophy isn't the right answer for you. Maybe it's a different style of training. I think that, going to the gym, especially with optimizing your workout, is understanding what's best for you. When I got my genetic test back, like, I got 33% even in odds for strength, endurance, and power. So, and I was already doing like circuit training basically. And I didn't know I was already doing what was perfect for my body. And I had
What does that mean? Explain it in what I call understanding fitness for the dummies. What does all those numbers actually mean to somebody?
Right. So breaking those three down, first you have your endurance. Like, you look at like high endurance runners, people that are just gifted at running long distances. Like, those people are already predisposed for the most part genetically to excel at those things. Right. You talk about power. You're talking about your corn-fed farm boys that are just naturally strong. That's just bred in them. Maybe powerlifting is good for that person. And then you look at endurance, power, and strength, and you look at people like strength, like 12 to 15 reps, the hypertrophy might be perfect for them.
Mhm.
Right. So understanding what your body already is good at and making it more efficient. Like, listen, I could probably get you a good genetically based workout in 30 to 45 minutes instead of killing yourself for 2 hours. And instead of that 2 hours in the workout, I could also have recovery for you and
Mhm.
understand how your body needs to recover, what extra steps you need to take. So it's about looking at this way more efficiently and through a different perspective, instead of just one size fits all, and that we can only use one color to paint this picture.
When people come to you, what is the three major what is your three major factors that you deal with as a trainer with individuals?
So the three factors that I deal with mostly, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the big things that we really harp on is routine, right? We want to make sure that people are avoiding this hell loop of a process. Like, oh, I just tried this diet, and I got 3 weeks in, and I had a bad day, and I'm just going to double down on what I'm doing. So, is understanding that we, even if we have a bad day, and kind of rewiring our brain for discipline instead of just trying to accomplish short-term goals. is huge for us. Secondly, is again looking at people through a wider lens. What I mean by that too is I just don't think the quality of healthcare and quality of wellness has been out there. I think there's always been these especially on social media nowadays, it's like, hey, try this worked for me, do this and that, and not a solid answer for people, right? So and doing that too is like you're asking like more intelligent questions as well. It's like, hey, let's get your hormones checked. Let's figure out what's going on there. Do you have a thyroid issue? It looks like you have a bad need from a biomechanical assessment, and I'm seeing through your genetics that your COL1A5 gene is popping up red as unfavorable, and those are directly connected with ACL ruptures and Achilles ruptures and whatnot. So that's two, is looking at this wellness through a deeper perspective of wellness. And then number three is making life a little better with small decision fatigue, right? We have like 30,000 different decisions we got to make throughout the day, right? Whether, what kind of coffee I want to get, what turn I'm going to make going to work, all these different things. And wellness is one of those things that harps on our mind a lot, right? It's like, oh, did I get my shake in today? Did I do this? And I'm not very organized about in my routine and my goals here. So just just changing that as well. So I'd say those are the three things that are most important. I'm trying to look at it a little differently than everybody else.
Who is your biggest inquiries? Is it men? Is it teenagers? Is it women?
So it's a wide variety of people. It's the most common people I get are the people that are most frustrated, that have tried every little thing that they can and are still coming up short. Mm-hmm. That's the first sect of people that I work with. And then secondly is, working with athletes is getting them a better quality program for them, to understanding, like, again, these injury mitigation techniques that we have, and pliability work that we can work with them to turn their weaknesses into strength. And then three is we eventually want to get into insurance and try to help with that decision-making process. If you're going to the gym 4 times a week, you're eating right, you're getting your blood work done, like, you shouldn't be paying higher premiums than someone who's not. Mm-hmm. So understanding that better, and again, having a better process through that. But those are our 3 target markets.
How do you look at today's youth, especially with football? Don't get me wrong, I don't mind football, but I think when you deal with a sport that deals with high impact collisions, that's kind of dangerous.
100%, right? And that's what we call epigenetics, or environmental factors that we're already putting ourselves at a higher risk. Mm-hmm. Right? If we're abusing our bodies, to any extent, whether that's high risk sports for injuries, not putting the right nutrition into our bodies, we're putting ourselves at higher risk. Right? It's the same thing. If I have a house that's been hit by a flood once, my flood insurance is going to go up. Right. So understanding how these injuries work, and understanding that these potential risks, and understanding how to do prehab instead of having to rehab down the road is the big difference in what has been sports science before and what will be sports science. But again, you're right. Like, these environmental factors are huge. Like, you can never permanently get rid of injuries. Right. That's just
how can genetic research, you're in this field now, how can genetic research, I'm trying to think of the right word to use, how can genetic research improve sports performance, especially in a sport that requires environmental factors such as boxing, such as football, such as even basketball, running up and down on the knees, the strenuous jumping? How was genetic research or genetic testing gonna make a better athlete, a less injury prone athlete?
Right. So there's actually certain alleles or indicators that are directly correlated with injuries, right? With it's just certain susceptibilities to injuries, like, ACL is a big one, Achilles is a big one, especially in football nowadays. It seems like everyone's hurting their Achilles, and as well as like tendinopathy, right? There's actual scientific studies done on these alleles or indicators to prove those points. And and going into that, understanding these alleles, being able to apply these alleles to these athletes, understanding like these are your higher risk areas, making sure that trainers are working with them more in these areas, making sure that we're making those joints stronger, making sure that we're mitigating these risks, and is giving a higher quality program and a higher quality player in return.
Yeah, but on certain biomechanical movements, stress is only allowed to a certain impact, a threshold. So even with genetic uh, um, research or genetic applications applied to those areas, how is that gonna really change anything? Because the Achilles can only tolerate so much wear and tear. The meniscus can only tolerate so much impact, so forth. The genetic research isn't a beat all beat all. It's not going to strengthen it. So what do you do in that situation?
So what we do is, again, I'll use that, COL A15 allele for an example, because it is directly correlated with things like ACL ruptures, right? So what we would do is we would do pliability workout, much like Tom Brady did back in the day. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard the story about him, having a weird handoff and his thumb went so far back, his skin ripped open, but no tendons were damaged because he worked on pliability and making sure that his body could take these hits.
Mhm.
So understanding pliability, understanding again prehab techniques. It's like, all right, listen, if you already have a risk for this, let's say the knee, we're going to make sure that we're doing X, Y, and Z to strengthen that knee and making sure that we reduce the risk. Now you're right; these environmental factors you can't get rid of. That's impossible. But understanding how the body works, understanding how to recover, and understanding these potential hot spots is going to mitigate injuries in the long run with science. Right. So again, we can't get rid of the injuries, but we can mitigate and make stronger where there is weak.
Okay. Let's go to another part of this. You are what you eat. You are what you eat. We've heard this repetitively. How does that trigger into the gene pool?
So, again, we're all uniquely different, right? And we're all from different areas. And that's going to dictate our diet, what's going to be, or dictate our diets for ourselves, right? And I'll give you a great example. I had a client that, had a lot of red meat and thought that he was Native American and all these other things. And come to find out, he was European, but all across the sea. So very sea-bearing towns and sea-bearing villages, whatnot, was his ancestry. And come to find out through his genetic report, some of his top 4 proteins were octopus, Atlantic catfish, and lobster. So it all boiled back to his ancestors. That's what they ate for hundreds, if not thousands, of years.
Right.
So that's what he should be eating based off of his DNA. So understanding we are what we eat is also where we're from and our culture and what we used to eat, and understanding what works best for us. Right. That's why these fad diets works for, maybe a 10% of the population. And then there's another 60% that are just left twiddling their thumbs, not knowing what to do.
So what's your take on genetic research and carbohydrate sensitive individuals? Let me explain where I'm going with this. As a professional bodybuilder, I very seldom ate or consume carbs. I don't have a craving for them. I don't really care for them. But when it comes to meat, outside of pork, beef, chicken, fish, oh my God, I would tear it up. So does the genetic markers indicate as well why somebody would not crave carbohydrates versus another person that actually thrives off of carbs and then have a weight problem on top of that?
Oh, 100%, right? Like even our genetic test, we have literally an allele with a predisposition for salty foods. Like if you have you need salty foods more, and you see a lot of the times with that too, people have like high propensity for muscle cramps, which means they probably need to take more electrolytes than other people.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's different too, and like you said, carb sensitivity. Some people are really sensitive to simple carbohydrates. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, complex carbohydrates like quinoa and whatnot are a much better option, especially with this in the processed age of food, when simple carbohydrates really isn't food to begin with.
Right.
Right. So, leaving that out of the equation, it's just that everybody's body works a little bit differently. And, you said yourself, like, hey, like, I don't eat a lot of carbohydrates. I have a, knacking for it, but, someone down the road or someone even maybe in your family might.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're sensitive. Maybe their taste buds, react a little differently than you. right? So everybody's just a little bit differently when we talk about that stuff too. It's why, you know, it makes the difference between, you know, a pro bodybuilder and amateur bodybuilder is understanding how their body works. And some people find the right path, you know, genetically they're at doing it. But
What's your take on the food pyramid? Yeah, because we talked about that. It's changed throughout. It's changed over and over again. And how, because it has changed, I believe because it hasn't changed to some degree, that maybe this is one of the contributing factors of why we have genetic and hormonal problems. What's your take on that?
100%. I mean, at the top of the food pyramid was simple carbohydrates. I mean, you know, I grew up eating cereal for breakfast every morning when, you know, I'm getting this insulin spike in the morning and I'm crashing and it didn't know what was going on in my body, didn't know why it was so hard to focus.
Mhm.
You know, I think we have an epidemic because, you know, we pretty much live in an oligarchy, not a democracy anymore, of run by the corporations. And if you look back to the food pyramid, it was set up based off corporations, you know, based off what they thought was best for you. Right. And now we're taking the power into our own hands. I know they're doing my plate in foods now, which is a little different about portion control and whatnot, which is good, but we're still not at a standard where we should be. Right.
Right.
The education is not out there. And it's again, because we're, you know, everything's run by corporations and they want to keep on producing these terrible foods. I mean, if you take even like soda from here versus UK, the ingredients are completely different because they ban that kind of stuff over there. We haven't even started doing that. I'm not sure why people aren't more in an outrage about their quality of food,
I've
right?
heard
And
of
as well,
that too. What's your take on that? I heard of that. In certain countries, they don't even have the ingredients that we have in our food. I mean, why do you think there's not a bigger outcry in the US?
well, I think number one is is contentment. You know, they a lot of people like their you know their terrible
Convenience.
food.
Convenience.
Yeah, their convenience, you know, they're happy with what's going on because they don't understand it because they were never educated. So, you know, one thing that we've been trying to do, especially with my book and whatnot, is take that leap of educating people what foods really are. You know, like you said, you are what you eat, and that is the freaking truth, right? You really are what you eat, and you're not going to be functioning at an optimal level if you're not eating right. And everyone knows that, hey, like, listen, if I start eating, you know, some more vegetables and more complex carbohydrates, I'm going to be feeling better. But yet they're still choosing these bad foods. You
Hmm.
know, food addiction food addiction is another problem here too. Listen, people do not want to give these foods because they're addictive. Look at
The
all these
biggest
look at all these sodas that have no sugar, but they're full of what is that sugar that's out there, the sugar, substitute sugar. Not stevia.
aspartame,
Yes.
aspartame.
Yes, and that's a huge carcinogen, and people thinking they're getting zero sugar sodas, and they're drinking cancer.
Yeah.
You know, it's just sad
What do you
all
see
around.
more? And what medical DNA factors do you see in women that is outrageous? And then what are some of the genetic markers that you see in men? And does um race play a key factor in these genetic markers?
So yeah, so the first one for women, I'm seeing a lot of people missing this fat burning variant RS1267891, which again makes it a lot harder for people to lose fat if they're doing cardio over and over again. You know, strength training might be a little better option, right? So seeing that in women's huge. I'm also seeing a lot of hormone issues in women, especially during menopause. You know, they're, you know, having their body ability to get, you know, a leaner physique, build this lean mass and lose the fat. So looking at hormones too, not just genetically, you know, these blood panels are so important for us, but you know, I'm seeing that fat burning variant and hormones being a crucial part in that. And then with men, you know, I'm seeing a lot of hormone deficiencies. You know, just like women go through menopause, us men go through andropause. You know, so we want to make sure that we're looking at this kind of stuff. And with men, I'm seeing a lot of cancer risks, a lot of injury predepositions. Like, you know, I'm just getting older men that I'm getting back like, hey, like your COL-1.5 is popping up as unfavorable, and they're already had 2 knee operations. So I'm seeing a lot of that. And then yes, race does have a certain application here with certain, especially things with like injury prevention and whatnot, understanding which race is affected more highly, or you might be less susceptible. So
Mhm.
race does play a part, and I do think that could actually bring us together as people, as well as understanding those things.
Basically, we all got the same concepts of of um, of troubles going on in our life, no matter what the color spectrum actually is. Tell me a
What
little bit about the book that you got and how people can get the book and what the book contains of and how it's going to change their lives.
Right. So the book's called Health Profiling. You can find on Amazon or Kindle. And it's really about talking about not just the, what we talked about today about, working out, nutrition, supplementation, but I dive into genetics, I dive into sleep, I dive into stress, I dive into what I would like to say as a full painted picture for a wellness guide and a wellness journey for
Mhm.
people. So again, just having people understand the truth about how our body works and how we're all uniquely different. But yeah, it kind of came on because I wanted a higher quality. I see people write books about, nutrition. I see people write about, about workouts, and I'm like, that's just, 5-10% of what it takes to be well. So I try to make it almost like a wellness journey Bible, survival guide kind of thing.
How difficult is it for people to understand the genome pool? You're talking about a lot of genetic markers that individuals clearly don't understand. Is the book fundamentally sound where you take them into the area of genetic markers and which markers they need to work, or explain it a little bit in detail to them?
Yeah. Yeah, so really, I kind of graze over what genetics are, what they mean to us healthily. I do get into a little bit about what alleles are, about how we're all different using we're all a set of different genome types and whatnot. But I tried to make it as simple as possible for everybody because everyone's having a problem, right? We're seeing a health epidemic of biblical proportions right now in America, and we're talking about this. We don't know. There's not much more uproar in this, so I think that educating people through like this way of understanding how a 360-degree approach to wellness instead of just picking and choosing what we want to get fit would change perspective. And that's kind of my goal here, is change perspective about where we're at with wellness and where we ultimately could be.
I'm gonna go back a little bit. You
Yeah,
focused on something about your grandfather. What was your grandfather to you, and how much of your quest is reflecting with your grandfather's legacy?
man, it's been my light, man. It's been he was everything to me. I saw he was one of the hardest working men I've ever seen, and he was finally retired, had his own little flea market that he loved to run, and I just saw his love for his family and all the sacrifice that he made, and understanding that, he built this construction company, this welding company for his family. He spent, nights away for his family. So, um, grasping that when, he passed away has been literally my lifeblood. It's kept me going every single day. Now that my mom's had this stroke now too, and, understanding that I've got to step up and provide for my parents now and try to be a better man. He's fueled me for the right reasons, and it's gotten to me where I am, just seeing who he was and how good of a man he was.
One thing I can honestly say, I'm glad that you're doing the research on genetic research and improvement for human performance, not just human performance. Let me rephrase that: human life, and recognizing the need to address this worldwide, not just here in the United States, but worldwide. And um, coming on the show and sharing that, and I would do my best to make sure your message is spread it out. How can the viewers reach out to you if they want to talk to you about their genetic profile?
Yes, so you can find us on our website, www.ascendperformancetraining.com. We're also on all social media platforms. I'm most heavily on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect on LinkedIn, that'd be great. You can also email me, trippascendpt@gmail.com, if you guys want to reach me out there too. And then my phone number is on my website too. If you guys want to give me a text, I just want to provide it. Even if someone has questions, I'd love to, just have a conversation with them.
What's the end game for you, Tripp?
Man, end game, end game would be changing wellness for forever in a positive way, of this idea that, right now, when you have a problem, you get sick, you go to a doctor, they heal you. And that's made total sense for a long time, but we're at a point now where we can prevent things from happening.
Mhm.
And as a people, we deserve a better quality of care and a better quality of information and data to use to make sure that we can prevent these things from happening, and being able to enjoy our retirement, not having these strokes and cardiovascular diseases and injuries, these prolonging whatnot. It's, for me, my end goal is to wake people up a little bit about what's going on with their food, wake people up about what they're doing to their bodies, what and whatnot, as well as change this narrative of wellness, of like, listen, like we got to take health into our own hands, right? Obviously our government's not going to do it. Obviously that there's all this fad data out there. So we really just got to come together as a community, which we've been lacking in, come together as a community, ask for a better product and a better service. And I want to be able to fill that role.
Man, that was deep. Leave the viewers with something that only Tripp Parks can leave them with.
Man, one of the big things is it's never too late. It is never too late. I don't care if you're 4 years old or 88 years old. It is never too late to start treating your body better. It's never too late, right? I have people like, oh, well, I'm 55. And well, listen, if, even if we have to start off slow, just moving some arms around, just getting flexibility in, it's never too late to take your body seriously. Because listen, coming from me, like having to take care of my mom who's incontinent, if you're not taking care of yourself, someone else will, right? And that's in a negative. So listen, we gotta treat our bodies better, and there's never too late. I know I harped on a ton of bad things here, but there's also a light in the tunnel, us understanding wellness in a different light. So we got to band together, and it's really never too late to start taking this the right way.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show.